I don't understand how one can have realize one's true self and then find after a while that somehow the self starts to arise again, or belief in a separate self can remain even when it's been pretty. You've seen it, yes. You've seen everything.
Yes.
And you know, and yet in challenge, it's easy in a congenial atmosphere with people who may have similar philosophy, or whatever you want to call it. But when it's in a challenging environment, especially a more intellectual one, or a different philosophy, even if it's related, I don't understand why that it's not lost, it's there, but there can be so much clouding over of separation.
Yes. It's quite simple. It's because the mind is a habit. The mind has been rehearsing the belief and feeling in separation for decades. Day in, it was educated to think and feel on behalf of the separate self by our culture. And then for decades, day in, day out, rehearsed being a separate self. Surprise, surprise, that's what the mind does, because that's what it's been trained to do. Then, when it becomes clear to us that what we are is not a separate, limited awareness, the mind doesn't just overnight turn around and start serving the true self of awareness. It's got this momentum running. The analogy that's sometimes given is, you imagine a steamer on the ocean. It's one thing to turn the engine off, but it takes time for the steamer to come to a standstill. Now, if you have a little motorboat and a steamer both going along, and you turn the engines off at the same time, the motorboat will come to rest relatively quickly. The steamer goes on for 30 miles. And that's although both engines were turned off at the same time, but depending on the momentum behind them, they come to rest at different times. So body minds are like these different boats. There is a certain momentum behind each body mind. How long each body mind takes to become acclimatized to this understanding varies greatly from body mind to body mind. The same realization can take place in two body minds. One will go on acting out the neuroses of the separate self for far longer than the other, depending on the conditioning.
I think I knew that intellectually, but I find it very hard to deal with because it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Okay, so that's fine. You mean the separate self doesn't make sense anymore? Yeah, you're right. It's once it's been truly seen through, it doesn't make any sense either to act and relate on behalf of a separate self, or indeed to relate to a separate self in somebody else. You want to relate to who they truly are, even if they are acting like a separate self and doing all the usual defense mechanisms and games that egos play with each other. You don't want to play that game anymore. You want to relate to who they truly are. So just and as you say, it's easy in congenial circumstances when everything is going your way, and like now, it's one reason why these kind of events are provided. It's easy. We don't have to give our attention to anyone or anything else. It's relatively easy to know ourselves as this ever-present, unlimited awareness. Then when we go outside, as soon as we step outside, something happens, and then we go to work or back to our families or whatever it is, it gets more and more difficult. But it's just a matter of taking this understanding gradually out into your life and seeing in time that less and less situations or events or people have the ability to pull you out of this understanding. So you can just experiment in your life. You can just raise the bar slowly. See that, you walk from here to a cafe in Notting Hill for lunch. It's a little bit more demanding than just sitting peacefully here amongst friends, but see then if something can really make you be something other than this presence. And then you just try it in more and more difficult circumstances, and you'll actually see you never, even when thoughts and feelings think otherwise, we never truly become anything other than this unlimited awareness. Just try it in...
I think I went straight into the lion's den, actually.
Yeah. Don't go straight in. Ease yourself in slowly. Just try the situations that are just slightly difficult. Leave intimate relationships till last. Or family situations. Those are the ones that dredge up the oldest, deepest feelings of separation and anxiety and being unlovable or unworthy. All these things. It just 24 hours with your family. Couple of minutes with your family. So try situations that are not so intense. I mean, it's not always the case, but in general, families and intimate relationships have a way of bringing up, revealing all the old residues of separation in us. Sooner or later they come up in intimate relationships and families, and then work situations again. But so try it in just slightly testing circumstances, but just establish in your experience, not intellectually, but in your experience, that nothing truly ever makes you be or become anything other than this ever-present, unlimited openness. Until you find in the end nothing can truly take you out of it.